Hi, this is Jordan, and in this video I'm going to talk about how I meditate and why I'm so freaking excited about this one simple practice. I've been getting a lot of questions about this topic lately, so in this video I want to explain exactly why I meditate, the different techniques and the journey I've taken to find such a beautiful relationship to meditation, and also I want to say a little bit about why it is, for me, like the master key of the universe. It's kind of like the skill that rules all skills and has had the most profound impact on my intimacy and my relationship. So it's hands down awesome. First things first, I never believed that I would become an avid meditator or even love this practice so much. For a long time, it was very difficult to get me to wake up in the morning and then sit down on the cushion for what? To close my eyes and focus on my breath for 10 minutes. It was too boring. There was always something else to do. There was something else in the way. There was no reward. Like, why would I ever do that? And so it's taken up until last year before finding the motivation, despite having some kind of interest in meditation for about 5 or 6 years. So every kind of avid meditator knows that it's one thing to develop the skill to meditate, but it's another thing altogether to develop the daily practice and have it as part of your routine. So I'm hoping that some of my enthusiasm is going to rub off and have you give it a try. I first got into meditation, or I first got interested in meditation because I heard that women liked presence and that meditation was the practice to become more present. So if it was going to make me better with women, then of course it was something worth looking into. And that wasn't enough to get me on the cushion meditating every single day. Many different years went by. A lot of things happened, of course, as happens to all of us in our lives. And I kept getting the insight or the understanding or the recommendation again and again and again that meditation would help me with my emotional life. Meditation would help me with my financial life. Meditation would help me improve the learning time for a number of different skills and bits of development that I wanted to have for myself. So again and again, it's like the the voice of the world proved to me or spoke to me again that this is something I should take really seriously. And ultimately I did. So I'll say something about 3 different kinds of presence, because meditation trains presence. And so you might have heard some of this before, maybe some of it will sound a little bit new, but let's just say the first kind of presence is being a person who has or is present. So we can walk around the world and our level of presence can be kind of like this. I'm thinking about my thoughts, I'm thinking about my to-do list, I'm thinking about what to have to dinner, I'm thinking about my problems. Our level of presence is very contracted, as they say. It's our scope of vision and awareness is really shortened into the mind. And if you're the kind of person who overthinks, you probably get that there's a certain level of pain involved in overthinking. It's not a very expansive or beautiful way to live life. And so to be present or to be in the moment means to have my awareness on the surroundings. When I go for breakfast in the morning in the coffee shop, when I walk through the door, can I see and feel and hear everyone who's in the room? Can I notice which sounds are coming through from the coffee bar? Do I notice what music is playing in the stereo? Can I feel the air conditioning on my skin? All these are questions or prompts to help us reflect and understand, like, am I present? Am I aware to the moment that's happening all around me? Or am I kind of stuck in my small world of thoughts? So a person can have presence in this way, and that's beautiful. A lot more free and makes us available for connection and the things that are going on around us. One way of looking at this is if I approach my lover and I'm stuck in the small concerns of my head, I don't have much ability to discern whether she's open and pleased to see me or whether she's a little bit annoyed and wants some time for herself. And so if I'm actually present and I can feel her and get a sense for her before I approach, I can attune and say the right thing in the right way, and my relating becomes a lot more skillful. So presence is vital for that. The second kind of presence, which is totally attached, we might call it stage presence. And so there's a lot of famous singers, pop icons, actors who are said to have a great presence. They walk in the room and everybody's head turns around to see who is this person, who is this presence. There's just a magnetism to them, the way they walk through the world. So someone can have a stage presence. And the interesting thing I've noticed is that the first kind of presence and the second kind, that kind of inner awareness and the outer magnetism that a man can have, are extremely related. And the more I got out of my small, out of my head, out of my kind of contracted thinking patterns, and the more I paid attention to the world around me, all of a sudden, people would start checking me out a lot more. Women would just look me up and down. Men also would turn around and look at me and even give me a nod of approval. It's happened a number of times. And so there's a way that my inner presence turns into a kind of magnetic outer presence. And that's, of course, beautiful, because it's great to walk through the world and be noticed, to be looked well upon. People seem to, this sounds a bit weird maybe, but people seem to behave themselves better or respect me a lot more the more present I get. And I even notice how people can respect me but then subtly disrespect the person next to me because they've got a smaller presence, or they're more in their head, or they're not as engaged and therefore engaging. Now, you might have heard about these kinds of presence before. There is a third kind, which is something that has really come to my understanding through my own meditation practice. And, you know, if you're an atheist, close your ears now. But the third kind of presence that I've been really relating to a lot is what we might call God's presence or divine presence. And what this actually means is when I sit down on the meditation cushion and I meditate after 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, oftentimes everything can fall away and I sink into a place of bliss. And it's almost like my body gets filled up with a kind of light. It feels like ecstasy. And there are times where I'm sat on the chair or on the meditation cushion and I'm grinning, like my face is grinning, not like a subtle Buddha, but from ear to ear, like I'm loving the experience because I feel joy and bliss and like an ecstasy in my body, seemingly for no reason. So that's amazing. There's a word from Sanskrit which is amrita, which means ambrosia or divine nectar. And on occasion I can be sat there and it's as if this divine kind of nectar, this liquid, pours through me like this. It's so good. It feels sublime. It feels like God. I imagine this to be God's presence itself in my mind and in my body as I'm feeling it. And the very cool thing about this is when I'm feeling a little bit of this divine presence and I see my woman and I speak to my woman, I can put some of my awareness on her and keep some of my awareness on this great feeling that's inside me. And it's as if some of that sublime presence comes through. And so without saying a word, without doing anything, just the way that I gaze upon her, there is a really beautiful gift that gets transmitted. And of course, the more into intimacy we get, the value of that gift just keeps on giving. It's really feels like a secret of the universe that I've stumbled onto here by being able to feel this and then share this with my lover. It's worth doing this just to know what that is. It makes all of life worthwhile. So let's talk a little bit about how I actually meditate. And with that, I'll speak a little bit about how I got myself to meditate in the first place, because these kinds of side effects don't just come in the first session unless you're like, I don't know, a reincarnated lama or something like that. They've built up over time for me. And so the greatest thing on my path has been a little app on my iPhone called Insight Timer. And it's a basic meditation timer. You press the button and the seconds and the minutes add up. But the cool thing about this is that just by having a way to time my meditations, I know when the practice starts, I know when the practice finishes, I can select how much I practice, but more importantly, I can see my progress over time. And the app, of course, has charts that map your progress and your accumulated minutes as the weeks go by. And it gives you a day count as well, like how many days of meditation you've been doing consecutively. It will tell you that. So it's great to look at and feel, wow, I've done 20, I've done 30, I've done 100. And the feeling of just self-satisfaction of reaching 100 days of consecutive sitting down to meditate was absolutely amazing. I kicked myself for a lot of my life because I felt I never had the discipline training to be able to knuckle down and do the same thing every day. And I've been proving to myself that I do actually have this deep commitment by watching these numbers go up. So there's something about the psychology and the gamification of meditation that made it much more fun, because I got my reward for sticking to it. So I'm going to put all the links to everything I talk about, including Insight Timer, in the comments section below, so you can find out all that info. But that for me was the thing that got me off the track. And so what I usually do with duration is my minimum is 5 minutes a day. My maximum since I've been practicing has been 2 hours. So I'm not very tough with myself in terms of how much I do. The most important thing is that I do something. So even if all I do is 5 minutes of meditation in a day, it's been a success. I've got my daily number, my consecutive day, and the thing keeps rolling and keeps adding up. I had from good authority that it's much better to do 5 minutes a day than it is to do none every day and then do an hour at the weekend, or go on some intense vipassana and then not meditate for the rest of the year until you wait for the next retreat. So little and often seems to be the key, and it really feels like it's adding up in my experience. On a general day-to-day level, when I'm stable and at home, I'll do 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening. Again, if I miss an evening session, I'm not hard on myself, but there are days where I'll do 30, 40, 45 minutes in the morning. And if I get to do 45 minutes in the morning and 45 minutes in the evening, with an hour and a half of meditation every single day, that's when life starts to feel strangely perfect. Like, I could be surrounded with problems, family, work, relationship, whatever, and yet I look at all my problems through this lens of, wow, everything is absolutely perfect as it is. And I always seem to either choose the right option to make things better, or choose to not do anything, and it seems to work out perfectly itself. It's like moving through life with an incredible grace. And I seem to be having that experience when I'm up to about an hour and a half every single day. But even 20, 25 minutes a day is fantastic. When I started, I would do 5 minutes, then I would do 6 minutes, then I would do 7 minutes, 8 minutes, and so on, just so I could build the capacity to sit there for 20. Because I'd find that once I got to about 10 minutes, I'd start itching and hating it and scratching, and then my head is wondering what the time is, and I'm looking down at the phone to see how many minutes and seconds I've got left. And of course, I went through that whole game. So to learn how to just see those urges to look at the phone and to quit early and to get the hell off the mat, and then even relax and let them go, that's been a critical part of the learning process. And so I've built my time up just kind of like a muscle in the gym. I'd never sit down and try and do 30 minutes if I haven't done any training. And if I miss meditation for a few days because I'm traveling and then I come back to it and I'm tired, or I'm in a new part of the world, traveling seems to be the most vulnerable part for my meditation practice for me. When I get somewhere new, I will just sit down for 10 minutes, 12 minutes, and then ramp up my minutes again. So hopefully that's given you an idea that just because you can meditate for 45 minutes or an hour, and then you move to a new place and your body and your mind can only manage about 10 minutes, it's not a bad thing. It's just keeping that consistency. It's just doing something every day and watching those consistent days build up, so you get the nice kick of, yay, I made my milestone. So the technique itself, one of the things that surprised me about meditation is the variety of different things that you can do. So in my younger days, I would look at meditators and think that meditation was one thing. You know, you sit on the chair, you close your eyes, you try not to think, and that's it. And what has surprised me is that there are literally thousands upon thousands of different things that you can actually do while you sat there with your eyes closed, doing nothing. You can focus on any number of things. There's guided, recorded meditations. You can focus on breath. You can focus on different things with your mind. You can sing mantras on the inside. There's a massive range. And what I've noticed from trying out different kinds of meditation is that each type of meditation seems to have a slightly different effect in consciousness. So, as an analogy, there are red wines, there are white wines. Every single different red wine, yes, it's under the category of red wine, but if you drink it, it gives you a slightly different kind of effect. And you can drink a really nice one and feel really good, or you can drink a really cheap one and you've already got a hangover before you went to bed. It's a little bit like that with meditation techniques. You might think they're all equal, but actually they can take the quality of your state of mind to really distinct flavors and nuances and subtleties. So it's quite a trip exploring what there is in the marketplace. And so I'm like a total explorer, a total rebel. Someone tells me what to do, I do it really hard for a little while and then quit, and then I go and do something else. And so my journey with meditation has been a little bit the same. Every time I found a teacher that I liked or a technique that I liked, I would do it for a little while. And then I would feel like I got to the end of where that technique could take me, and then I've shopped around for another one, and I've used that technique, and I've seen if that technique could take me a little bit further or higher or deeper. And so I've tried out a whole bunch of different stuff, and I've come to about 4 or 5 different techniques, which when I do them, they consistently and stably give me a really good effect, which means that 90 or 90% of the time when I do meditate, I reach some of these really blissful states. It's very rare that I sit there and I'm just in my head, eating myself up over some negative thought loop. So I found the ones that worked for me. And so some of the good sources for me for finding these techniques have been Audible books, funnily enough. So you can go and find some of the world-class teachers on meditation. They've all got $300 programs that are going to teach you meditation for a number of months. But most of the world-class meditation teachers have got an Audible book. So if you're a member of Audible, which costs a few dollars a month, you can download some of these books, and they will... a lot of the meditation books are literally like retreats where you listen for an hour or an hour and a quarter a day. They tell you some beautiful stories about the lineage and the wisdom and the masters of this meditation technique. And then they give you a set of techniques that build upon each other until you've got, the big shebang of that teacher or that lineage. And I read a big number of those books as well, which was motivational. It's beautiful not just to meditate, but to hear some of these stories about these enlightened sages and what they did and what their lives were like. Always kept me really, really interested. But of the audio books or the Audible books that I've had, some of the ones that really stuck were anything by a guy called Reggie Ray. He's a Buddhist Tantra teacher from the States. I find I really connect to his voice when he's teaching meditating, and he really took me some way. He's got quite a few books out. All of them were good for me. A meditation technique I got really into for a long while was something called centering prayer, which is actually a Christian mystic meditation. It's not prayer in the fact that you're, bringing your hands together and you're talking to God. It literally is a way of letting go of every single thought that comes into your mind. And so through the practice of letting go of thoughts in meditation, we just become very well trained to let things go consistently and on command. It's a really beautiful program by a woman called Cynthia Bourgeault. And the meditation technique that I'm most with right now is something called the doing nothing meditation. And this comes from the tradition of Dzogchen, which is a Tibetan Buddhist tradition as well. I was given this by a friend of mine who's a meditation teacher, and it's very simply the practice of sitting. And if I catch myself doing something, don't mean with my hands, I mean like when I meditate, there's kind of like a part of my ego that's trying to coach me into better meditation as I go. Whenever I'm trying to do tricks like that in my own mind, I just practice letting that go and doing nothing. And what you'll probably find is that it can be very, very hard to do nothing exceptionally well. So I've been getting a lot of juice out of those meditations, and there's a couple more. Of course, you can meditate on drinking coffee. We were doing tea rituals here in the house, which is really powerful for a while. You can meditate on sex. You can meditate on eating food. You can meditate on art, which is something I've been getting into recently, and I'll make another video about that. But the objects of meditation and the ways that you go about meditation is infinite. And you can meditate on all different parts of your body for all different reasons. It's endless. But I think the three that I've shared with you today, like I say, there's 4 or 5 different techniques that I will cycle through. So on a given morning, I'll sit down on the mat and just decide what's my intention for this meditation, and then what should I do. And usually one meditation seems to be working for me powerfully, and I'll just sit and do that for 25 minutes, for 30 minutes, for 45 minutes, depending on how much time I've got and what's going on in my life. So that's pretty much the gist of it. If you have any questions at this point, just stick them down in the comments below, or send me an email. Put my details in the video notes. And I'll just finish off by talking about next steps. I think for me, I've been very self-taught with meditation, yet at the same time I've got a lot of good friends who meditate, so I've been able to get certain adjustments or comments, or I feel like I picked up a lot of good feedback along the way. But I think if I was really gonna say I woke up one day and wanted to give my meditation practice a massive boost, I'd probably find a teacher or a coach and check in with them once a month or something like that, because that would help me take it deeper. Or if I'm stuck somewhere in my mind on the same loop, it's just useful to have somebody see where I'm stuck, because they were stuck there themselves, and help them take that away. I mean, coaching's good in whatever skill in life you're trying to master, and it's the same in meditation. Other cool things that I found doing this practice, I've talked about my relationship, both the meeting, the intimacy, the conversation, and the sex is just profoundly altered by doing meditation. The experience of eating food, I've become much more into coffee and tea this year, because I have more palate, I have more presence and discernment for flavor. So this whole world is opening up. I've become much more touched and excited by the arts. So painting, photography, cinema, theater, music. I feel like by meditating and by becoming more present, deeper symbols, deeper emotion from the world of art can just come into me a lot more strikingly, and it just improves my enjoyment of culture and of life in general. It's just so valuable. And of course, when my girlfriend is showing whatever emotion she's in, or whatever's going on for her, I've got a lot more sensitivity for everything that she's going through. So it's like I said at the beginning of the video, it's like the ultimate skill, basically, that can improve so many parts of life. So I think I'm going to finish it there. I would say just begin, get your Insight Timer, add me as a friend on Insight Timer. I think you can have friends and then you can watch whose days go up, so there's a sense of accountability on it. And good luck. I think this is a powerful path, and just start by seeing if you can do 5 minutes a day, and just see if you can get up to 10 consecutive days. and see where that breadcrumb trail might lead you with this topic of meditation. I'm Jordan. Thanks for watching. Subscribe below. I'm going to be putting out at least weekly videos on all topics concerning intimacy, relationship, adventure, and spirituality, like today, essentially. And I'll see you soon.